Bienvenidos a Colombia Antigua. La historia es para compartirla sin egoísmo. Es por eso que cada video tiene el enlace y la información de dónde fue descargado. Esperamos que los videos y la información sean útiles para usted.
High in southern Colombia, there is a mountain knot where the Cordillera of the Andes splits into 3 separate ranges. For more than 2,000 years, it has been the habitation of man. The land has been worked industriously by a number of peoples, among them the various dwellers in the place today known as San Agustin. Between the mountain ranges run the mightiest rivers in Colombia, the Cauca and the Magdalena. Eventually they join and, under the latter name, flow as a single stream from south to north. Down this watercourse, tribes eager for new horizons made their way to the shores of the Caribbean. Over the centuries, the waters have cut through rock and soil, digging deep canyons. They plunge over precipices in cascades of astonishing beauty. There is the Mortiño Falls, 885 feet high. Up the waterways, drawn by pious curiosity, journeyed devotees of a strange cult. The objects of their quest were huge carved stones, whose satanic cat-like appearance had brought a shudder to the beholder in those far-off times. Today, these imposing monoliths stand as silent witnesses to the past. All seem to mark the site of funerals or other solemn rites. Generally, they stand atop mounds, from which sacrifices may have been ordered or dire predictions uttered of wars and catastrophes to come. Although these statues represent warriors, sorcerers, or gods, they frequently exhibit feline fangs, as if they resulted from some strange cross between man and cat. Undeniably, they are the product of a sizable guild of artists, who, in the course of several generations, developed and perfected the technique of carving figures, modifying characteristics, and component elements. The sculptures vary in expression and concept, but at no time do they lose the forcefulness which is their ever-present value. Among the cult ceremonies, there may have been one involving ablutions, or perhaps it was merely the custom to remove dirt from the feet prior to acts of worship. To provide for this need, a strange tract was laid out, today known as the footpath. A rocky slope was excavated to form small pools, and the surrounding area was adorned with figures of men and beasts, such as this serpent representing the rain goddess. Holes were dug, molded to fit the foot, to facilitate the task of the worshippers. The flowing water offers visual surprises. It caresses the stones with their bumps and hollows and creates imaginative effects which, on a small scale, anticipate the fantasies with which the hydraulic engineers of the Renaissance gave life and movement to the gardens of the Villa d'Este in Rome. These fascinating statues, before which pilgrims knelt in worship for centuries gone by, occur over a 200 square mile area of serenely beautiful broken terrain. More than 300 have been discovered. Others, their number is yet unknown, lie hidden, awaiting excavation in some of the 30 recognized archaeological sites of the region and in sites still to be uncovered. At the dawn of history, men of unknown origin and way of life came to dwell amid these foreboding landscapes. Here they gave birth to what today we call the San Agustin culture. Historically, the name San Agustin was first applied to this area in the 18th century by a monk writing a description of the present-day department of Huila in 1758. Owing to its inaccessibility, the area even now seems remote and exotic. Means of communication have improved, but they still take time. Planes can land only at a considerable distance because of the difficult terrain. Corn, fruit, and vegetables grow well on these undulating hills. Hard as the stone was, it gave way before tools fashioned of more abrasive minerals. The first carvings were cylindrical, with a few primitive incisions. In a slightly more advanced stage, they took the shape of a slab. Gradually, they acquired anatomical and ornamental details. The decorative element later took on geometric shape. One finds a step-like cap atop the head. Inverted, the step-like motif may represent a skirt. The eyes, stylized in the shape of a bird beak, gave off a fierce look, intensified by the ever-present feline fangs. Similar effects are to be noted in Mexico, and in Peru, and in the depths of Chavin. The Calimas, who lived in the faraway valley of the Cauca, copied the forms of the great stone gods in the jewelry they fashioned from gold, a material not much in use in the San Agustin area. This is the striking proof of the artistic hegemony which the sculptures exercised over an extensive territory, even as their religious prestige attracted pilgrims from far and near. It was perhaps 5 centuries before the birth of Christ that the San Agustin area became the dwelling place of the first and then another nomad tribe. Hunters were succeeded by a sedentary population, which in turn was replaced by the followers of the strange cult of the jaguar, who produced an Olympus of fanged deities. There can be no doubt that behind the savage appearance of the sculptured gods lies the myth of the jaguar, whose thundering roar was the symbol of force, fertility, and fecundation. All the images seem to have taken on the attributes of the fierce cat that impregnated the first woman. The fangs betoken the feline descent of the succession of deities that sprang from this union. In other parts of the hemisphere, even as in San Agustin, the jaguar was worshipped as be-all and end-all. The people of Chavin and Vicus, the Mayas, the Bruncas, the Toltecs, all produced in varying form the image of the jaguar. Since felines cover up the traces of their urine lest they be betrayed by its odor, the noses have been given the same form as the sexual organ. In this composition, creative instinct took a more imaginative turn, producing a totem effect in which a lizard crowns the god's head. Great importance was attributed to the sexual organs in these societies. Phallic images raised against the sky bespoke the abiding force of fecundation and perpetuation of the race by the gods. Toads, associated in Indian culture with the feminine sex, occasionally appear as a counterbalance to the predominance of masculine elements in the statues. For the most frequent image is of the jaguar man. In its earliest representation, it surmounts another animal for purposes of impregnation. The dominant effect here is one of mass, of an unhewn block. This sculpture may be viewed as the ancestor of a whole line of sacred imagery. Burial chambers resemble dolmens. In some cases, the effigy of the god wears as an attribute a cord tied about the waist, sustaining the sexual organ. The way in which the knot is made is depicted with great precision. It may have been a mark of rank. Guards armed with huge clubs and surmounted by ferocious beasts preserve the peace of the gods, frightening away all who would seek to disturb their repose. In examples such as this, sacrifices, children perhaps, are offered to the gods. The sacrifice is frequently represented hanging head down. Dignitaries were laid to rest in burial chambers in recumbent position. The sarcophagus was given human form, with clear indication of sex. It was protected by walls, which in a case such as this show signs of decoration, painted circles. This is one of the extremely rare examples of painting that have been found. Another is provided by this other monument, where reddish lines have been painted on the stone. It belongs to the local museum. A further characteristic of San Agustin sculpture is the superposition of figures one on another. It is common to find an animal riding on the back of a jaguar man. In an example such as this, both faces are equally menacing. The lower figure wears the cord knot of rank. The upper exhibits the features of both a jaguar and a lizard. It is believed that the figure of the rider represents the deity's alter ego, or second self. Reptiles seldom make an appearance in these carvings. When they do, they exhibit the flowing motion of a river seen from a mountain top. Here we have a most peculiar monument. A slab almost 10 feet high, showing a jaguar head surmounted by an animal with fangs and a trunk similar to that of an elephant. This is but one of innumerable mysteries among the sculptures of San Agustin. Another is this extraordinary depiction of a bird of prey devouring a serpent. It recalls at once the Aztec legend of the founding of the city of Tenochtitlan. The principal mystery of San Agustin, however, resides in the flint from which these masterpieces have been carved. Sizable pieces of the material used for the statues are not to be found in the soil of the region. Now this means that the rough blocks had to be brought from great distances. Perhaps logs were used as rollers, for the people of San Agustin did not know the wheel. But the carvings present any number of unanswered questions. Why, for example, do some of the mythical personages have slit eyes, whereas others have eyes and mouths of rectangular shape? The monoliths are indeed an abiding challenge to all who would seek logical explanation for their erection. There can be no doubt, however, that these statues, produced over a period of centuries, constituted the principal attraction of a shrine area to which pilgrims were drawn from near and far to pray, make offerings, and perform religious rites. To this vast sanctuary, abounding in works of art, the faithful came in search of consolation or divine justice. Here they petitioned for abundant crops or for protection against drought, war, and lightning bolts. The enemy might be man, insects, or weather. The roar of the jaguar, like thunder, was identified with the coming of life-giving rain. At the foot of these statues, cruel sacrifices were made. Beside these images were buried the most honored of the dead. As we look at these threatening faces with their fierce fangs, should we fancy we hear the roar of the jaguar, may it be a sign of prosperous times to come for all peoples of our hemisphere.